Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to HR Uncut. We are your hosts. That's Tracy, a French slash Brown. My name is Gurpreet Kaurman. Both of us are talent attraction and retention experts. And today we have an amazing segment that's going to touch on the second piece of our expertise, which is retention.
Mm.
It is all about retention, and as we are all aware, we are in the Great Resignation era, and due to this Great Resignation era, a lot of companies are finding themselves in a situation where either the employees quit, leaving, or they can't find talent. But right now, we're just gonna today's segment. Last week we talked about how to attract talent, and today we're gonna talk about how to retain talent in the Great Resignation era and how you as an organization can keep your top talent. At least, the goal should be to keep your top talent. Sadly, those that need to go, maybe this might be a blessing in disguise. Jokes aside, it is a blessing in disguise. If sometimes situations like this can weed out I like to call the bad apples out. It takes one bad apple to ruin a company culture. So today's all about how you can retain talent. Before we kick off this segment, I hope we're live because I didn't see a notification. Yep, we're live. Okay, perfect. So one thing I always forget to do for this segment is to ask you guys who are tuned in live to let us know who you are, where you tuning in from. This segment all about HR. If you have any questions, maybe you're an employer, maybe you're HR, maybe you're talent acquisition or recruiter. If you have any questions for us, do feel free to type it below in the comment section. But we would love to hear from you, who you are, where you tuned in from. Just drop those comments. Okay, so let's kick this off today. Let us know in the comment section, are you able to retain talent? And we're going to start the conversation not can you retain talent? Well, let's start with the first step, which is, well, do you even know or are you even aware that you have a retention issue slash turnover issue? So we're going to kick this segment. As always, I'm going to let Tracy lead the conversation from her expertise of retention. And what is the first step you need to do is, well, you need to first know if do you even have a retention or a turnover issue, or overall, do you have an issue in your organization that you may not even be aware? Because I've been having this conversation the past week with a couple of organizations, and they're not even aware that there isn't even an issue.
Yeah. And that's true. And it's funny how many organizations that I've worked with in my past life when I sat in a full-time HR chair who wouldn't track or didn't track turnover and attrition and understand why are people leaving and those types of things. So I think having that data is incredibly important when we're trying to understand, because some attrition is good, right? Like you can have retirement, whatever the case may be. Some of it can be good, but it's the stuff that you're not maybe expecting that you can start to plan for, is having the data in front of you to really and truly understand what does my turnover look like? What is my turnover rate? Why are my people leaving? What is causing them to leave? And really get an understanding of the basics. Because sometimes, like, what happens is, you lose a couple of employees and you think, oh my gosh, I have a retention issue, but you may not actually. And then you can build year over year and get some historical data to find out if you really are having a retention issue or just normal basic attrition, which is part of, employee life cycle. Mm-hmm.
I like to first start with Glassdoor reviews.
Yeah.
You may not even be aware that you have an issue in your organization. You don't have to wait until there is turnover for there to be evidence that there's an issue that you can lose retention, right? Lose your employees. So what we want to do first is we don't want to wait until people are leaving. That's not fixing the problem. We want to fix it as the problem occurs before it's too late. So typically what I do is the first thing I do is I look at Glassdoor reviews, or I will Google company's name and see what comes up. So I've done this for a couple of companies this past week. And interesting enough, Glassdoor and just Googling your company name, you can come across a lot of information where even secret forums where employees or past employees are talking about. So, example, Reddit. Reddit's also an amazing channel outlet platform for individuals to go and just voice their concerns, not to do with anything with your organization, but they could be talking about your organization as well. So those are two things that are my go-to strategies. Even when I take on any client, I will always look at the Glassdoor reviews, and it always amazes me how many companies don't look at the Glassdoor reviews, or they see it as, oh, just a bunch of ex-employees complaining, or some employees who are just complaining. But the thing about Glassdoor reviews is, the approach should be that, and I use this analogy with my clients too. Well, let me ask you a question. If this was a customer writing a review about your company, your product, would you care? And the answer is immediately yes. I'm like, why? Because as a customer, we don't want to lose customers. We don't want people reading our reviews and not buying our products or services. So the same concept applies in Glassdoor reviews too. Yes, it's an independent platform, but the thing is, you need to treat the Glassdoor reviews like a customer's writing it or potential customers writing it. For example, when we go to a hotel, when we're trying to book a hotel, don't we look for reviews and see what past customers who stayed at the hotel are saying about the hotel, and then we make our decision. Now, would we go book a hotel that has 2 or 3 star ratings from customer review? Eh. Or would we be more inclined to go and book a hotel that has 4 or 5 stars reviews, right? As human nature, the more higher the reviews are, 4 or plus, we're gonna buy. Same like Amazon. Before we buy, I know before I buy on Amazon, I look for the reviews, and I don't buy anything that has less than 4 star. Ideally 4.5 or 5, right? So more and more, we are so used to reviews, but that's what's happening from Glassdoor perspective. Is you want to see it as your customer, because your employees are your internal customers. And now your brand is if you have 3-point-star rating, there's a branding issue about your company, but there's a deeper issue, which is employees are not happy about situations. Instead of coming to you, they're using a third-party platform, which I found it to be amazing, better than doing employee surveys internally, because now your employees are writing, and they can write anonymously, and you can take that information and fix the problem. If you're willing to just take the emotions out and look at the review, and they're giving you inside perspective. They're giving you clues on what to fix, but are you willing to listen? Or are you going to be rigid and say, oh, who cares? It's just one employee, or who cares? It's 2 employees. There's a company I found over the weekend that's doing a phenomenal job with Glassdoor reviews. Is that they're actually taking the reviews, they're responding back, they're replying, and they're implementing and improving. So you want to be work in progress. The best way to retain any employees you have is to hear them, see them, and implement what they're saying. The best way to build a company from inside is to listen to the people that are working for you, just like how you would listen to customers, right? We're constantly focused on customers, and we're fixing our products or services based on customer feedback. And the same thing we need to do with our employees. We need to constantly keep improving the organization's culture, performance, systems, processes, by listening to them. And you can start by going and looking at your Glassdoor reviews, because that will give you a good understanding of what's really happening in each of the departments and how your employees are feeling. And then Google your company name, and you can see if anything comes up from a private forum like Reddit. Then there are Slack channels. There are private Slack channels. In today's day and age, if you really want to know what your employees are feeling, you don't need to do a survey. You can just Google search your company name and see what comes up on these private forums, because you'll be shocked to first learn that there's such thing that exists. And second, they're giving real raw information that they may not feel safe to do it on an employee survey. So if you really want to retain tension, that's my go-to first step, is go look at your reviews. And then second is exactly what Tracy said, run a turnover report. You should be running those turnover reports every month, but don't just run it, analyze the data. Go back to, okay, if 5 people left the company, then you need to go look at, well, why did these 5 people leave, right? I did this for a client who wasn't even aware that they have turnover. I never actually take face value when someone tells me they don't have turnover issues. I always run a report, turnover report. I will go Glassdoor reviews, and then I present the data. I'm like, well, here's what the real situation looks
Mhm.
like. One organization had a huge turnover issue, which they didn't think they did until I ran the report and I started analyzing the data. And the data was interesting to find out that people were just, all the recruitment was all just replacement of people
Mhm.
that were leaving. So thing to do is you want to look at those data information from the turnover report, then pull out the go to the system, or hopefully you have an HR system, to look at, well, what was the reason for the person leaving? Did anybody speak to this person? Exit interviews. I know there's mixed reviews on exit interviews. Should you do them? Should you not do it? Again, it depends how you do it. But to retain talent, you have to start by listening to your employees. You can do independent focus groups as well, as something I've done for various of my clients, as well as in my other HR roles. We did focus groups where we picked random individuals and I brought them in together and used to run them once a month.
Mhm.
So those focus groups you can run. Again, people have to feel safe and trust you to do it. If you don't have that trust, then yes, you should hire a third party like me or Tracy to come in and do focus group, because people are more prone to talk to an independent consultant than there are to talk to somebody in the organization. So these are the first go-to steps. Now let's move on to, okay, you've done all these steps, now you collected data, now what to do. So Tracy, step 2.
So I think, and that's one of the biggest, I think, issues that companies will make. They'll gather all this information, and to your point, they'll look at Glassdoor and they'll give it an excuse to why it exists, and maybe not give it the credibility that it deserves. But I think once you start grabbing that data and you're getting an understanding of what's driving people to either leave your organization or consider looking for other work or just generally not being happy, when you're getting that information, you need to start putting action items in place to try to fix it. So when you get an employee's voice and they start telling you, here's what it is, here's some issues, and you turn a blind eye to it, or you make an excuse as to why that's not important to the organization, then employees are just going to start leaving, and they'll start leaving much more quickly. And I'm working with a client right now who, kind of working with them, I guess, who has a recognized retention issue. They know what their issues are. They have supervisory problems and a whole host of different things, and are choosing not to correct the internal issues.
Why?
So that's the question. In any event, so now what they're doing is they're doing recruiting every month, 2, 3, 4 people, and it's always just basically this revolving door, because I think what has happened is they have a very old school mentality and they just believe people don't want to work, and that's
You know what?
fine.
Let's stay on this because let's do some number crunching. So let's take one role. Um, how much does that one role salary is? Because here's the thing, a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people don't want to fix their retention issues. Okay, this person can go and let me replace them.
Mhm.
Now current research suggests that it can cost anywhere 200 to 300% of the employee's ending salary to replace them, because you got loss of productivity, disrupted workforce. If it's a salesperson, guess what? They just took your accounts. Not that they mean to take your account, but
Mhm.
the customers are used to dealing with that account manager, that they're more prone to follow that person because that's who they were dealing with. They weren't buying a product, your service. They bought into that sales or account manager. So that's gone. Knowledge is gone. The brain is gone. The talent's gone. You can't replace someone's brain
Mhm.
and someone's knowledge. Maybe knowledge can be replaceable with another candidate, but that brain and the talent and the capabilities that individual had, irreplaceable. That's gone. It's all gone. Productivity is gone. Cost of recruiting, there's onboarding costs, there's up to, it can take up to 6 months to 12 months to get them to this level that the ending employee was. So that's why the cost is so high of turnover. It can cost anywhere from 200 to 300%. So I want to use this as an example. If you can, give a rough estimate of one role that they're constantly replacing, and we can do a quick math so to show everybody like how much it's actually costing you to keep recruiting for the same role, instead of you can save that money and fix the problem. The solution isn't let them go and keep recruiting,
Right
because the problem's still going to exist. That person left, the next person's going to keep leaving. You're just in that vicious cycle.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I find, and I don't think it's unique to one company. I think that there's a lot of organizations that for some reason feel like, because I think that the return on investment on retention sometimes does take time for a company to realize, right? I mean, you have to invest in it. You have to do it every day. It has to be a living, breathing, dynamic part of your HR strategy. It can't just be something you're reacting to. So sort of like to your point, right? Like if you're going to gather information, sure, you can go to Glassdoor and you can do all those wonderful things and get some more candid, expressions of how people are feeling. But I think investing in, I used to call them challenge chats, regular monthly focus groups, having lots of touch points, an employee feedback loop, and all of those things so that you're constantly on the edge of knowing what's going on in your organization and then acting on it. So like in this example, they know what their issues are. They have chosen not to. You can put that salary at about $20 an hour.
So $20 an hour, roughly working, like say 40 hours?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll do the math as rounding it off. Okay, $20, 40 hours, that's 800, and there's 52 weeks times 52 weeks, that's 41. So roughly the salary is 41,600, and let's say it's about 200% of this person's ending salary. It's gonna cost them anywhere. It's costing them, hold on, 200. Okay, so 41,600 plus. It's costing them $124,800 to replace the original person that left.
Yep.
And every time it's costing you this much. Every time person coming in this role and then they're leaving, they're coming in, it's costing you 124, because that's up to 200%, right? So give and take, it's 124. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
When you can simply just fix the issue and retain the talent instead of them just circulate, like just coming and going, coming and going,
Yep.
coming and going.
Well, and it's frustrating sometimes too. And sometimes when you're an outside consultant looking in, it's frustrating to hear, because a lot of times, whether it's this company or others that I work with, we don't have the time. Our leadership doesn't have the time. These are big projects and we don't have the time. But you don't have the time, like you said, you're losing the talent, you're losing the training, you're losing the knowledge. You're losing those connections and the relationships that these people had with other folks, which, trickles down. So you're losing all of those things. You don't have time for that, because that has a significant impact on your business. So to say you don't have time to invest in retention, to me, it's because you don't understand the full impact and how much it inspires people to continue to work for you when you invest in them and listen to them. And if for example, you can't offer the best pay, okay, and if that's where you're at and you can't offer the best pay, well, what other things can I do to bolster that? Like, don't just shrug your shoulders and say, well, it is what it is, people just don't want to work here, people are lazy. That's just not good enough. And I think employees deserve
But that's
better.
not the truth, though. People not lazy. You're just attracting the wrong talent. But then when you're not fixing the problem and you're letting people keep coming and going and keep coming and going, the message you're giving to all the employees is, we don't care.
Yep.
We don't care what you have to say. You're free to go, and people will keep coming and going. And when you constantly seeing people are just coming and going, even if the one that wanted to stay is going to be like, yeah, there's something's wrong here, I need to start looking. So what's happening is a ripple effect happening, but you're not fixing the problem. You're creating a bigger and bigger problem. And the ripple effect is that you're also going to lose more employees, because one position, if there's a turnover, second position is going to come, there's going to be turnover, third, fourth, and now you're just in this vicious cycle that people are just coming and going and coming and going. And that was one of the issues with one of my clients, but they weren't aware that was happening until I pointed it out. And I said, this is what all you did the past year is, this is how many people left and you just kept replacing them. This is how much. I did a whole cost analysis, and I said, this is how much it's costing you to be in this vicious cycle. Yes, it's not, the problem is people are not feeling the pain, the business owners or the shareholders or the executives, because it's not physical money that is going out of your account. Now, if anybody wants to have a successful business, you need to understand that there's cost involved other than just seeing a physical dollar sign in your bank account. And this is like the hidden cost that you're losing money on. So any company that wants to make profits, it's attracting talent plus retaining them will equal your company profits. So if you're making money, let's say you're making money right now and you have a turnover issue, just imagine if you fixed a turnover issue and you can retain the talent, you can double, triple the amount of money you're already making. But you're not seeing that. And again, yes, I agree that it all comes down, it's a business 101. There's cost involved there's a bigger cost involved when you don't keep your employees than is to like building a composition package. Now, if you can afford the talent, then bring down your requirements and bring it down to the ones you can afford. And then as you make money, you can then maybe start affording more, right? So retention, as much as anybody out there that doesn't believe in retention and think there's diamond does have a talent, that's what the whole Great Resignation era is shaking up. You can't be successful with that mindset that people are lazy or there's diamond dozen employees. No, you want to hire the best that you can for your buck, and your employees should be generating almost 3 to 4 times ROI for you. But the key is you want to keep them and you want to develop them. It's an investment that's going to generate 4 or 5 times ROI if you do it correctly. And if you don't have time and this is not your subject matter expertise, so I heard a couple of things from what your client was saying. We don't have the time. Okay, no one's telling it that you need to do it. Then you hire experts like yourself or me, but this is your client. Well, then why aren't they giving you the project to do it, right? That's why consulting exists. That's why there's consulting agencies, because no one expects you to take on and do all the projects. You outsource it, and you will get a greater benefit, because guess what? When you can solve that problem, you're not going to have a retention issue. You're going to be able to retain talent, which means you'll be able to make double, triple what you're making today.
Well, and I think what happens too, and I think it's just a natural, in non-HR minds, it's just a natural thing to think, well, why can't I just do a Band-Aid effect and one thing and fix it? Like, can I do a retention bonus? You stay at the end of the year, you get a bonus. And they want quick fixes. And the problem with retention is it's not a quick fix. So usually what's causing people to leave is something that's eroded over time. So it took time to build. So it's going to take time to fix, right? So I think it's understanding that retention isn't just a switch that you turn on and everything's fixed, right? It's got to be something that you work at and you build into a business plan, much like you would anything else. If, like you said, if you're bleeding customers, you don't just say, oh, well, you try to figure out why you're bleeding customers and you fix that. So if you're bleeding employees, whether it's a 1 employee or 50 employees, you have to understand why and then want to fix it. So, because it's the exact same thing, a customer and employee, right? They're of equal value. But for some reason, we seem to lower the value of an employee when it comes to that, because like to your point, I think they think, well, I can replace you, and while you may be able to replace the body, you're not always able to replace the skill and talent that they had at the time that they left, right?
But also, not to mention, you're also losing customers because if your employee's not happy working for you, they're gonna leave. Guess what? You also lost a customer because they're not going to buy your products and service because they don't believe in you anymore, because they got the first hand dose of who you really are by working for you, and you also lost a customer. So again, your employees are your internal customers as well as your customers buying your product. Future products, maybe you give your products to your your employees for free, but
Mm-hmm.
guess what? When they leave your organization, are they going to buy your product? Right? There's a long-term relationship. The problem is that I keep encountering past week is a lot of people are thinking short term.
Yeah.
Even I just in business dealings too, I just had an interesting conversation past week, just even this morning with somebody. Like people are so short-sighted to just think of one-off thing or
Mm-hmm.
one time I got a customer or a client, but the key isn't to get a one-off client. The key should be retention and building a long-term relationship with a client or customer so that they keep coming back to you, or you can keep coming back to them and collaborate or whatever. The goal should always be long-term. And I think we lose out when we're just thinking short term.
Mm-hmm.
Short term is just short term, like, but
Well,
a
this is
long
it.
term has a much more ROI benefit to both parties to be in the long term. But fixing the problem with retention, it is sad those companies that don't want to invest, and what's going to happen is that, well, eventually one day you'll be out of a business, because now this goes back to branding. If you don't care at this moment, right now you may not feel the pain, but eventually you're going to feel the pain, because guess what? The word travels.
Yeah.
And these same employees, your internal employees or your internal customer, they're also your brand ambassadors for future talent to come and work for you. They're going to now not recommend your company to any of their family or friends. And then that ripple effect happens, right? That family or friend that they don't recommend it, and they're going to sit there and tell how horrible you were. That person's going to tell two more people, 300, the whole broken telephone game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the message is obviously going to be distorted every time someone's saying it. And it's just going to get more
Yes.
exaggerated. In the long term, you're going to end up running into attracting talent issue. So isn't it just about retention anymore? You're also not going to be able to attract the talent to come work for you. So retention is the key, because if you can retain talent, people more likely to want to work for you.
Yep. Yep.
Because even employees, nobody wants to keep hopping jobs. As much as
No.
anybody wants to sit there and say that employees hop jobs, I don't know anybody that wants to go through the whole stressful, overwhelming process of job searching. If people are happy and you're treating them well, they're more likely to stay. Yes, if there's no opportunity for growth, they're going to leave. So I have a five-pillar strategy on retaining retention, overall building a successful company. And the five pillars are, you have to have five things built into your, and I call it the roadmap to building company culture, roadmap to building a successful company, is it starts from the inside out. And you want to do five things. You want to have five different pillars. These are five pillars, each has its own strategy. One is attract, which means talent acquisition. Two, acquire. So once you attract and then acquire the talent, you want to now successfully integrate them into your organization, which is talent integration. Three is grow, which equals talent recognition. Your employees want to grow with you, and in order for them to be motivated and grow with your organization, they have to be recognized for the work they do. So talent recognition. Fourth step is retention. Retaining talent. So you need to develop the talent you have. You have to, that plays into branding, company culture, employee experience, and you want to keep developing your talent. And lastly is promote, which is talent succession. Are you doing career mapping with your employees?
Yep.
Are you planning for succession? Who can take on the next get the next promotion? But are you setting them up to move into the next promotion? Are you talking to your employees to know what's the future look like for them in the organization? It sometimes isn't about promotion. Maybe they want to do a lateral move to
Lateral.
another
Yep.
sprint. different department. A lot of this can be also helpful by having an HRS system to help you build these 5 pillars. But without these 5 pillars, which is again attract, acquire, grow, retain, and promote,
Yep.
you are not building a successful company, which will then equal to attracting and retaining talent, which equals profits for your business. Your business can go faster. Your business can increase revenues faster, double, triple your profits if you have talent attraction plus talent retention, right? You have to attract and retain talent. They both go hand in hand.
They do.
There's no one without the other. You
Nope.
can't attract and not retain. You can't retain without not attracting. So they're both equally important in order to make money for your business. So last ending remarks. Anything you want to add, Tracy, before
Um,
we segment? Or anything
yeah.
that you wanted to add that we didn't get to talk on?
Yeah, no, I think everything you said is just, those that's all the foundations that I work off of as well. I think the biggest issue I find with employers that are encountering these things is they understand that, those pillars are important. Those are I have those 5 pillars, just different. They're labeled differently, but they're the same.
What's
Is
yours?
Pardon?
What do you call them?
Oh, it's the same. I go through them, like the first one is obviously the attraction, obviously, and then bringing them on board, then integration, retention, and then the same thing with career growth and development and succession planning. So, but I think what I find a lot of times is they just don't know how. So we talk about career. Like, I'm doing a huge project right now with a client, and we're going through career development and career mapping and progression, and it's huge. And if you don't know how to do it, it can be extremely overwhelming for a business owner or a manager or a leader to do these things if they've never done them before. So I think one of the great things that somebody like you or I can add value in is not just saying, hey, here's what you got to do, but here's how you can do it. And here's what we can do to maybe make it a hybrid for your organization. What's going to work for you? Because I think sometimes what happens is they Google these things, or they get, somebody saying, here's what you need to do, but they just don't know how to make it work so that it actually has traction within their organization too. And then I think also too, we didn't talk about that retention does take time. So it's not a really quick fix.
Yeah.
So,
No.
any one of those pillars that you're working on, it's not going to have an immediate effect. It does take time. In any event, I think that was the only thing I wanted to add to what you had said. Because it's
The
all
immediate effect would be to actually hear your employees. And if you don't know how to fix it, guess what? Your employees will tell you how to fix it because they're in it, right? So
Yeah.
if you want a fast, speedy result, then get your employees involved, listen to them, and then get them to share ideas, create a project. You can create a project team. If you don't have the money to invest, let's say in a consultant like us, then you can create and I guarantee there would be so many employees who would love to work on a project like this to then they feel part of the team, they're part of the solution, they're coming up with the solution. Get your employees involved to come up with the solution and then implement it, right? So if budget's an issue and you can't afford to hire a consultant to come in and help you, then get your employees involved and see who would want to run this project, because the best solution will come from your employees because they're in it. The best way to build a company is to keep those communications going from your employees, but your employees also need to be seen and heard. And also, heard means you're taking action where you can, and when you can't take action, you're going back and saying, can't take action, and here's why. You're explaining, and you have that transparency. Communication is the key as well. So we're gonna wrap it right here. Hope you found the segment really helpful. If you're not sure, if you have a retention issue, the first step is Google your company name, go to Glassdoor and look at those reviews. Second thing is run a turnover report. And if you still don't, and if you now have come to some understanding, or if you don't know what to do with all this information, this is where Tracy and I can come in and help you guys. So feel free to reach out to either Tracy French Brown, or myself if you need that help if you really, it comes down to commitment. I think my ending remark here would be that every employer today has an opportunity to become a world-class employer where people want to work for you. People are dying to work for you, just like Google. Do you think Google has an attraction issue to attract talent? Nope. Nope, no. People are dying to work for Google. And that's because they paved the way in how a company culture should look like. Are they a perfect company? No, there's some issues with them too. But do they have a talent and attraction issue? No. Do they have a retention issue? I don't know. I don't think so, because people are dying to work there and people stay and stay with them. And guess how much money Google's making? If anybody thinks it costs a lot of money to attract and retain, just look at Google. Like, Google's the perfect example that they're killing it in their space, and why? Because they have the best talent working for them. The only way to make money is to have the best talent come work for you and retain it. So Google will be the first example that comes out of my mouth to attract and retain, and they're the perfect example. If anybody wants to want to be and make millions of billions of dollars, you can. And I think in today's day and age, every single company out there has an opportunity right this moment to become the next Google or better. My goal for my clients would be to become better than Google. You can pave the way in a different way. Every company right now has an opportunity to become innovator, employer, meaning disrupt the workforce and really create something unique for your employees and your employees. You don't have to keep doing these things the same way. You need to get rid of the old school HR thinking, get rid of the old HR policies. I can't say enough. Just get rid of everything that is old and decades old. I don't understand why companies have decades and decades of old HR processes when we're living in a modern day and age.
Yes.
Like, that's the biggest clash I've seen. You need to adopt modern workplace strategies if you want to continue to stay ahead. And you can't do that by hiring old, rigid HR people to come change your HR processes. If you want to really become modernized and work in today's day and age, then you need to have people who are modern HR professionals like myself and Tracy. We don't bring in the rigid HR. We're actually bringing in what's happening today and what you need to do in the future. And if Great Resignation, that's why I love the Great Resignation. It's really shaking up companies. Now it's your choice as an employer. Do you welcome the change and say, you know what? We need to listen and we need to adapt and we need to implement new things and we need to do things differently. And any leader out there that takes that approach is the amazing leader that anybody would want to work for, because nobody wants to work for a leader that's not willing to change. Because we live in a forever changing world. Pandemic was the biggest wake up call for everybody. Like, things can change overnight, right? And if leaders are not willing to change, then guess what? I don't think anybody wants to work for a leader. I know I don't want to work for a leader that doesn't want to change and doesn't want to improve, because we can all improve, even as individuals as well as companies. So I know I'm going on a whole tangent here, but this topic is so important to me. Because I truly believe every company, every business out there has truly a potential to kick ass, pardon my language, in the industry you're in. You truly have the potential to make triple to what you're making right now if you start investing in the internal processes and internal employees and your internal branding. I guarantee you will be seeing an increase in your revenues. If you really want to see money in your bank account and you think HR is not that, guess what? A good HR person can really turn things around in your organization, and you'll see a spike in revenues, because when your people are happy employees equal happy revenues and profits. Like, that's used to be my slogan. Happy employees means you are going to make more money. That's just how it works. Happy employees are also attracting a happy energy into your organization, and happy employees, happy customer equals more company and profits. You're in the business to make money, which everybody is. Your goal should be to make more profits, but it isn't to cut corners with your employees. Your employees are your biggest asset, but you can't keep them if you don't have proper structure and strategy put in place. So I know everybody's all about, my ending remark is, this is what I wanted to touch on, was you can't have a philosophy employee first or people first if you don't have the structure to support it. You don't
Oh,
have the strategies that support it. So I never understood the notion of in people first, employee first, but then you don't have the structure or strategy to support it. First thing to do is you need to have the structure, you need to have the strategy in order to put your people first.
yes.
Then you can put your people first. You can't put your people first and then there's nothing there.
Well, because it's just words at that point. I think it became a catchphrase for a little while, right? People
Yeah,
first.
I had for the longest time I had it's strategy and structure first and then people, and some people were arguing. I'm like, listen, we can go on circles all day, but if you don't have the structure, and when I say structure, if you don't even have proper onboarding put in place, you don't
Yes.
have employee programs, you don't have
Yes.
a development plan for your employees,
Yeah.
you're not developing your employees, you don't have succession planning, career mapping, how are you then putting your people first? Please tell me.
It's so true.
Right?
Yeah.
So it is structure and strategy equals people first. Without the structure, actually I should call it,
I
it's,
like that. That's
yes,
really
I am
good.
gonna write this. It's
You're on fire.
yes, I love this topic. I'm really
Clearly.
passionate about my work.
Mhm.
It's structure plus strategy, then that equals people first. Without those two, you are not putting your people first.
Nope.
On that note, this is my mic drop. I need to drop my
I
mic.
know. Boom. I love it.
Oh! Okay,
I
not
love it.
for today. Yo, it's been a long time since I have a drop mic moment. Okay, all jokes aside here, we're gonna call it a day today. Here's our topic. I hope you guys have found relevant information from Tracy and I about how to retain tension and the steps to take in order to first step to last steps. Lastly, if you are stuck, you don't even know what to do, feel free to reach out to Tracy French Brown. She's on LinkedIn. Okay, I've tagged her into this segment, or if I didn't, I will tag her so you can directly click on her link, or you can contact me. One of us, we're two separate business owners, by the way. We're not working. We are not running the
So we're
same.
not the same.
We're not the same business. And here's perfect example. Both of us run our own businesses and we don't even see each other as competition.
No,
Okay,
not
if
at
that
all.
doesn't show you anything about who we are, then I don't know what.
Right?
So feel free to reach out to any of us with any HR needs you may have. But keep in mind, without retention, you will not be successful in making more money. If you are in the business to want and make more money and profits, I don't know who wouldn't want to. You got to keep those people. You got to keep your people happy. So on that note, have a good afternoon. And we'll see you guys next week with another topic. So this segment happens every Wednesday at 11 a.m. and it's HR Uncut with Tracy and Gurpreet. And enjoy your day. Bye.
Yay. See ya.